You know, it's really because of Bloomberg's reporting that we've been expecting a Switch Pro announcement like any minute now. And you know, that kind of stuff is kind of my thing. So I've been pretty much on call the past week and a half. Ah. Ah. Ugh. To be fair, Bloomberg said it may be announced ahead of the E3 conference, and we all just kind of took that to be truth for some reason. But anyway, just like every Nintendo announcement that has ever happened, every Nintendo fan, including myself, we all made our own expectations for what we thought might happen. But personally, for me, I think Nintendo just about met my expectations. I always go into these things with low expectations. But this was a good press conference. By far the best press conference of all of E3 2021, which isn't really saying much, really. Thank you, Trade, for sponsoring this video. Oh, hey. I'm internationally renowned barista Bob Wulff. Every single time somebody comes over my apartment, I ask them, what type of coffee do you want? Because they're getting one. I thought for today's ad, instead of doing a little goof, we'd do a little coffee recipe. It's very simple. First, you're gonna wanna put a little bit of maple syrup on the bottom of a cup, and then a little sprinkling of brown sugar. Brew your latte, or regular coffee works too. Then after, add your milk. Top it off with another sprinkling of brown sugar, and that's it. This is probably the one I make for people the most. You could also do this with regular coffee, and it also works great as cold brew. Just whisk some oat milk to get the right cold foam. And there you have it. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, whoa, wow, it's incredible. Thank you. When you make coffee every single day, it's invaluable to have freshly roasted coffee automatically shipped right to your doorstep, so you never have to think about running out. And of course, getting different varieties shipped to your door from the nation's top roasters that are curated to your tastes helps keep things interesting. And that's exactly what Trade does. Just take their quiz so they know how you like your coffee, choose your delivery frequency, and it'll appear at your doorstep at peak freshness. Then, rate that coffee, and Trade will continue to send you coffee based on your tastes. Trade is so confident you'll love your first coffee that if you don't, they'll ship you out a different bag for free. I make a latte for myself every single day, and I actually use the service myself. Then they tell me I have to make an ad, and then I pretend like I don't so that they'll ship me more coffee. I couldn't even wait till I filmed this ad. Look at this. These aren't even full. I used these already. If you want to try it for yourself, the first 100 of you will get 50% off your first bag by using the link in the description below and typing in the code WolfDen50. Free shipping is also included, and thank you again, Trade, for sponsoring this video. Still good? Oh yeah, yeah. That's what I like to hear. My day started today with a text message from my friend Jackson at 9:14 in the morning, who said, "What are you doing about Nintendo now that they're saying we can't co-stream it?" And you know, I was pissed. And that all happened because the Nintendo Japanese Twitter account, they put out a tweet this morning that has a horrible translation that says, "Please refrain from mirror distribution of Nintendo Direct video and audio during the live distribution of Nintendo Direct. Simultaneous viewing distribution without mirror distribution is possible. After the live distribution of Nintendo Direct, you can post a video that handles the distribution video as long as the content complies with the guidelines." People took this as saying that you can't co-stream the Nintendo Direct. But what I gathered from some of the better translations in the replies here is that you can totally co-stream it, you just can't re-stream it without your commentary on it. So you have to make it a transformative media. So live reactions are good. We were all allowed to Twitch stream it, yay. Maybe there was some questionable licensed music, but I really don't give a f. The press conference started off with a Smash Brothers character reveal, and I think that we all expected a Smash character reveal, but I don't know if anybody expected Kazuya from Tekken. I'm a big Smash Brothers fan, but I'm not really a big fighting game guy. I don't think I'll be using Kazuya, but I'm sure he's a big deal to a lot of other fighting game fans, and probably a much bigger deal in Japan than he would be here. Oh no, not Kirby. Kirby, you can't Kirby. Yeah! You can't kill Kirby, he's God! I'm not going to talk about every single thing in detail about what happened. You could probably find a recap of every little game announcement somewhere else. I'm going to talk about the notable ones and the ones that I thought were most interesting. After that, we almost immediately got like a sizzle reel, which was really weird. It was a very strange place in the conference to put a sizzle reel right in the beginning. Earlier in E3 at the Square Enix conference, they showed off a little bit of the Guardians of the Galaxy game footage. It turns out that's coming to the Switch, but it's coming via the cloud. That was a little footnote at the bottom of the trailer. Then there was a point in the presentation where they showed bananas on screen and said a beloved franchise is coming back.
A beloved series rolls into its 20th anniversary this year.
Bananas! A beloved series. It can't be Donkey Kong. Oh! Wow. And then everybody's expectations for Donkey Kong were immediately crushed when Monkey Ball shows up on screen. Monkey Ball is a great game, though. I think this collection is going to be really fun. I hope that there's online. I think there were some people who were expecting a new Mario Party game or DLC for the previous Mario Party game. But now we're getting Mario Party Superstars, which is a collection of old mini games from Mario Party's past. I guess the classic ones. We had a game similar to this on the 3DS, and I think a lot of people really liked that game. They were just upset that it was on the 3DS. I think people are gonna love this game. Oh wait, it says Nintendo Switch Online, wait. Online play is supported, so it's not like the last Mario Party game where the online play is botched and it takes 2 years to get better. I think people are gonna love this game. I think people are not gonna love that it's probably gonna be $60. Next up, coming in strong, they mention Metroid Prime 4, which is one of the biggest games that everybody has been waiting for Nintendo to talk about at some point. The last thing we heard about it was that they had to push back and restart development because they didn't like how the game was going, and they got old Metroid Prime developer Retro Studios to help out to make things a little better. So here we are in 2021. They mention the game again and say, we're not ready to show anything, but here's a little 2D Metroid game for you. I was not expecting any 2D Metroid anything, and I was certainly not expecting to get this excited about a 2D Metroid game. This is Metroid Dread, and they're calling it the 5th Metroid game. So we might not be getting a Metroid Prime 4, but we are getting a brand new mainline Metroid game. I think this is this might be my favorite announcement, and it's definitely one of the biggest drops of all of E3. There was a game that wasn't shown off in America. I just found it on the Japanese Nintendo Twitter account. It's called Pawapuro-kun Poketo R. Like Bomberman R, get it? This is presumably a Japanese handheld game that never got localized. Looks like some sort of baseball story-based RPG. Oh. There's tanks? There seems to be a lot going on in this game. The next big announcement was WarioWare Get It Together, and we kind of had speculation that they were working on a WarioWare game because Nintendo put out a little questionnaire to some customers and asked if they would pay $60 for a new WarioWare game. This seems like pretty much exactly what you could expect out of a WarioWare game, except that it has multiplayer. I'm not sure if that multiplayer is online, though, and I would be very disappointed if it's not. Nintendo's not very good at putting online multiplayer on all of their games. Then we got actual gameplay for Shin Megami Tensei 5. I'm not super hyped about Shin Megami Tensei. The only reason it's notable is because this is one of the first games announced for the Nintendo Switch back the day the Switch and its price point was revealed. So it's been like 4 years since we knew of this game's existence, and we're finally getting gameplay for it. And we get a little bit of look at all of the JRPG systems. So if you're into big clunky UIs and long-winded explanations, you'll love this trailer. Then we get every Danganronpa game under the sun, including their own Mario Party. We already knew of the existence of Mario plus Rabbids Spark of Hope because it was leaked on the eShop and it was also in the Ubisoft conference. But we get a little more of it here in the Nintendo press conference. I was not too jazzed about the original Mario plus Rabbids. I didn't think it was charming. I thought it was a little stupid. And I think that people only bought it because there were no Mario games on the Switch at the time. But there are people who are fans of the strategy genre and they might be interested in this. I'm only interested in a Mario game where he can jump. A surprising amount of people want a new Advanced Wars game. I didn't think that that game was very popular, but we have a remake of the first two Advanced Wars games. I've never played Advanced War. I'm interested in it because of how many people like it. I'm not big on strategy games, but I think this is one of the biggest announcements that might have come out of this E3 press conference. Finally, at the very end, we got a block of Zelda stuff for the 35th anniversary. There's only two big notable ones for me, and one of them is this frickin' Game & Watch. The Mario 35th anniversary Game & Watch was okay. It was a cool little device, but it just had the original Super Mario Bros., which I have 1,000 times over on all different consoles. It had the Lost Levels, which is pretty cool, and it had some Game & Watch game. Most of all, it was just a cool collector's edition console. But this one has the Game Boy version of Link's Awakening. It also has the original Legend of Zelda and the Adventures of Link, and some Game & Watch game. But I think the Game Boy version of Link's Awakening is very notable. I don't know the last time Nintendo ported over a Game Boy game. I'm hoping we get more Nintendo Game Boy ROMs in some capacity. I was a little disappointed we got nothing about a new Nintendo Switch Online games library. I was hoping for some Game Boy games on there as part of that service. I'm not even that big of a Zelda fan, but I want this now, if not just for Link's Awakening in this form. And then finally, the big one, Breath of the Wild 2. I think we all expected something out of Breath of the Wild 2. I think gameplay is more than we should have expected. I expected a title reveal and maybe a smaller release window. This one just says 2022, and it's still being called sequel to Legend of Zelda: The Breath of the Wild. But it looks really fun. It looks like more Breath of the Wild. It looks like it might be a lot more streamlined. Link has all these magic abilities now that might just mean that the D-pad is a little more streamlined. It might be easier to use all of these moves. I noticed that you never see Link's face in this trailer, at least not with that arm. So he might have gotten messed up and maybe has like a scar on his face or something. He also has very long hair, and for a second I thought maybe that's Zelda. But then I noticed his like toga is on one shoulder and then a boob would be out, and then that kind of rules on Zelda. And then that was it for the entire conference. Am I a little sad there was no hardware even though Nintendo said there wouldn't be? Yes. I made a little bingo card. There were two things that were close to a first-party port or a remaster. We had Fatal Frame, which was a Wii U game, but it wasn't actually first-party. It was Koei Tecmo, published by Nintendo, so that doesn't count. And Advanced Wars, which is actually looking like a remake, so that doesn't get a check. Wacky new Switch accessory. I shouldn't have said Switch. I should have said hardware. That would have been the Zelda 35th anniversary Game & Watch. Random Star Wars game. They've had a Star Wars game in every direct, like the past 3 directs. I don't know why this one they decided, you Bob. 2D or 3D mainline Super Mario game. I didn't think that was going to happen. I was just wishful thinking. I would have been super hyped for that. That probably would have been the only thing that would have gotten me hyped. Animal Crossing free updates. They always do those. It's weird that they didn't do it this time. Project Triangle Strategy, now just called Triangle Strategy. I thought that was a sure shot. They didn't talk about Triangle Strategy at all this time. Actual title reveal for Breath of the Wild. Disappointed that didn't happen. Random new first-party IP. I can't think of one. I don't think they had one. Metroid Prime 4 got a mention, but they didn't talk about the game other than that, so I'm not including that. Disappointment, I checked off yes. Not because I was personally disappointed, but because I think there were a lot of things in here that would have disappointed people. No Metroid Prime 4, no Bayonetta 3, no Donkey Kong, no Kirby, no hardware, which has been rumored for 1,000 years at this point. And people are always disappointed about Nintendo stuff. Nintendo Switch Online, new retro library. I'm disappointed this didn't happen. Still no word on Hollow Knight Silk Song. I think that was a pretty sure shot. That they've been very quiet about that game. At least one JRPG. That's a free space, baby. I was kind of expecting a little bit of a partnership with Microsoft. It is rumored that Game Pass might eventually make it to the Nintendo Switch, but I was expecting at least some mention of the Xbox logo in some way. Nintendo and Microsoft have been buddy-buddy. I was expecting a little nod to them at some capacity, so I put the logo on there. WarioWare, we got a new game. WarioWare Get It Together. COVID shout out. They didn't say COVID by name. Usually they blame some delays on COVID, but at the very beginning, they had the little COVID disclaimer, so that counts. Mention of Zelda 35th anniversary. That got a brief mention. And that, I think, also has people disappointed. People wanted a Wind Waker port, even though we just got the HD remaster on the Wii U. People also wanted Twilight Princess, and they said during this press conference, they don't have anything else for the 35th anniversary of Zelda. This is everything that they have planned, you have seen already. So that's going to have some people disappointed. Mario plus Rabbids Spark of Hope. Again, that was kind of a given, but we didn't know it was going to be in this. Maybe they might have left it out. But they did the same thing with Kingdom Battle. We saw it at the Ubisoft conference, and then we saw it at Nintendo's conference. At least 5 JRPGs. I thought that would be a given. They always talk about a million JRPGs. This was pretty JRPG light. We just barely made it to JRPGs. I had to include Dragon Ball Z Kakarot as a JRPG. I mean, it is. Game running off of the cloud. That was Guardians of the Galaxy. I had to rewatch it to even realize that was running off the cloud. New Collector's Edition Nintendo Switch design. I thought that was kind of a sure shot. They usually show a new Switch design in these conferences. Bayonetta 3, nothing. Pikmin, nothing. New Switch console version that I didn't think was going to happen. And we got a new Smash Brothers character. Now, I know we weren't supposed to be expecting any hardware out of this. They specifically said they were only going to be talking about software, and it was going to be a heavy focus on software that came out this year. But they're fucking liars. They talked about the Zelda Game & Watch. That's a brand new console from Nintendo, if you ask me. I think that's a big deal. One, because it's the first time we're seeing a Game Boy game ported in a long time. And two, I've been saying Nintendo would make a killing if they made all of the old Game Boy Pokemon games in that form factor, just sell them as one-offs. I know that's more of a Pokemon Company thing, but that's most of the reason why people get these little portable emulators to play these Pokemon games. So why not sell little tiny devices that could play each of the Pokemon games? That they could sell them $50 each. People would go crazy for those. But anyway, I just hope that means more Game Boy games for us in some capacity. All in all, I think this was a good Nintendo Direct. I made sure to keep my expectations in check. I would have liked to see a little more. Selfishly, I would have liked to have seen some games that appeal more to me, like Mario stuff, some more 2D platformers. But some things blindsided me, like Metroid Dread. I didn't expect to fall in love with something like that. The Game & Watch Zelda was another highlight for me. In terms of a Switch Pro, I think that since it didn't get announced ahead of this E3, it's probably not going to get announced till the end of the summer, just like the Switch Lite did, and then we'll see it sometime during the holiday season. So of course I think it's a thing, I just think it's going to be a while till we see it brought into the real life. Anyway, what did you guys think about this year's Nintendo Direct from E3 2021? Did you enjoy yourself? What did you think about E3 in general? Do you think that Nintendo had the best announcements? Who do you think had the best announcements, and what do you think the best announcement was? And do you think E3 should just stop doing a whole production? I think if they start the convention up again, I'm going to be really pissed off. I have a video on why I hate E3 so much, and that's I think a good relevant watch right now. I'm glad I got to cover it from the comfort of my own home, and that's probably the way I'm going to be doing it in the future. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. Oh, we're also going to talk about more of E3 2021 over on youtube.com/WolfDen Podcast if you want a big, long discussion on everything that happened. Also, thank you, Trade, for helping support this channel and sponsoring this video and giving me the good beans. I'm sorry this isn't like a normal video. I'm trying to just rush this video out to be part of the zeitgeist. Anyway, of course, the most important thing that you can do to help support this channel is just subscribe. Thank you so much. And share this video with a friend who is interested in all these Nintendo announcements. Maybe they just got themselves a Switch and is excited for some more stuff. Thank you very much. Have yourself a good week.